Welcome back to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Happy you're being a part of the program today. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Brie Arthur is a best-selling author, YouTuber, nationally recognized speaker, and horticulture expert sharing her passion for gardening. Welcome to the program, Brie.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your very hectic schedule, as many of us have, to not only enlighten us, but share some of your information with Holly, myself, and all of our listeners. And I'll start with this. What is your story? How did you get into gardening? Was it something you found young, or you morphed into it as an adult and you thought, this is pretty cool, this is what I need to do?
I was very fortunate in that my grandparents were gardeners, my parents are gardeners, and I was a 4-H member growing up in southeastern Michigan. And really it was 4-H that introduced me to the ins and outs of horticulture and showed me that I could study this in college and have a great career growing plants.
Heart, head, hands, and what was the other one? There's 4 H's for that. I forget. Anyway, that's... I was in 4-H too. Holly, was you in 4-H?
I was not in 4-H.
You were in Girl Scouts, were you not?
Yeah, but that's different than 4-H.
I know.
Much different. So you are a foodscape expert. Please share with us what foodscaping is.
Well, it's a really simple concept. It's really coming off of the inspiration of Rosalind Creasy's books on edible landscaping and just trying to package it in a way for people living in suburban developments with strict homeowner association rules to be able to show them that they can grow food and not make their neighbors offended. It's really just the integration of edibles with all of your traditional ornamental plants, taking advantage of that landscape space that already exists so that you can grow beauty and bounty together. Yeah,
you incorporate leeks and onions in amongst the flowers, and certain things work better with others than in hiding them to some degree, right? We're hiding to some degree.
Exactly. It's basically growing in plain sight, but when you take away the agricultural installation of a vegetable, like growing in straight lines, growing in boxed beds, and you put them in with the ornamental plants, people often don't even realize you're growing food crops.
Right. Well, your most recent book is Gardening with Grains. Let's talk about that. What is the book about, and what is a tidbit in there that would inspire our listeners to pick up a copy?
Well, the book was actually inspired by my journey discovering grains as a home gardener, really thinking outside of that agriculture model. I know most people think you need a combine to grow wheat. Well, it turns out you don't, and it's actually really beautiful. All of the grains are really beautiful for their ornamental qualities, and they're really great for providing food for birds. And so one of the things that I love to be able to share with people is how you can grow your own bird seed and incorporate grains into your common landscape areas to create a really dynamic space that also helps your local ecosystem. Grains have definitely become a passion of mine, and one of the secondary benefits of growing grains are how they naturally improve the soil. I'm located here in Raleigh, North Carolina. We have very poor soils here in the Southeast. So any plants that, will draw nutrients back to the surface, help rototill that hard pan clay, and ultimately add organic matter, make a huge difference in being able to grow other plants. So grains just kind of fit into all the boxes, and I'm just very passionate about why everyone should try growing grains at least once in their lives.
And growing grains on a smaller scale like you are, you're able to utilize and purchase grains that in the big ag industry are just not available or are not looked upon well because they don't produce the way the farmer needs in order to make that cash crop work.
That's exactly true. And you can even really dive deep and grow ancient varieties that may not have the stem strength to be grown in commercial agriculture, but look beautiful and actually are a bit easier to digest. So from a local sort of small scale agriculture production, grains really do offer an opportunity for home gardeners that they probably haven't experienced before.
I would have to agree. Many people don't think about that.
Now, with your grains in making birdseed and all that, have you ventured into making flour out of some of that wheat?
We do. We actually average about 20 pounds of ground flour from our 650 square foot front yard grain bed. And then we've actually started growing barley for the purpose of brewing our own beer. And it's something I'd love to be able to share with more breweries so that they could at least use grains in some of their ornamental installations on their properties, but to really drive home the idea that you don't have beer without barley.
Right. And I guess the growing your own wheat to make your own flour is the same shock value as growing your own tomatoes and eating it versus a store-bought.
Yes. And, I always laugh. I give the example in a lot of my programs. We did 5 3-gallon fabric bags of wheat just to see how much flour would we get from 5 3-gallon grow bags. And we got enough to make a single loaf of bread. So you're not going to put the bakery out of business, right, but it is a really authentic experience.
Much appreciative how our grandfathers and great-grandparents and how they lived off the land by going, I did that much and I got this little bit. My goodness.
Exactly.
So what is a common problem with foodscaping and how can people overcome it?
Well, I think really the misconceptions often lie in not fully understanding homeowner restrictions. A lot of the new neighborhoods, actually someone was explaining to me recently, all new neighborhoods federally have an HOA because our mail system doesn't have the ability to go to individual mailboxes. So it's part of the covenant that an HOA maintain the mailbox area for new neighborhoods. And that kind of finally made me feel like, okay, HOAs have a purpose other than bullying the homeowners.
Right.
And, often the rules are written certainly without anyone from the horticulture industry guiding them. And many of the rules are just very outdated. They're not really meeting the needs of the modern day homeowner. And, the restrictions sort of make it seem like you're not allowed to do anything different from what the builder left you with. And my goal is to sort of help disseminate that information and build people's confidence so that they aren't afraid of the act of gardening and that it won't be the thing that puts them on the bad list for their neighborhood.
Right. I and Holly can attest to this. You read the rules not to know what the rules are, but to know what the rules aren't in. And if
Yes.
if they have to make a rule because of you, I think you've done something well.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
So, a lot of us are planning for next year and also, kind of going over our gardens, etc. What would you say is some of your best soil building techniques or tips?
Well, I'm a cover crop obsessed person now. So I'm really keen to make sure that even through the winter season, I don't leave the ground bare. So number one, putting the leaves that fall in the autumn season, putting them back into the beds is just the absolute best advice that anyone can give. It's literally the same word, leave the leaves. Mm-hmm. I'm also really keen to do cover crops with things that are more or less winter tolerant, things like winter wheat, daikon radish. I've really gotten into doing a lot with nitrogen fixing legumes. So here in the Southeast, where our winters are quite mild, we can grow things like fava beans all winter, crimson clover, and all of those will grow through the cool season, and then we mow them down in place before we plant for the summer season. And that's really just acting as organic matter to decompose in place, feed those microbes, and keep your soil healthy. The more you can do with ground plane coverage, with cover cropping, you can smother out weeds more efficiently, and ultimately you'll build better soil that will retain more moisture and nutrients, making your long-term maintenance much easier.
So when you say mow it down, are you just cutting it down, chop and drop, or are you cutting it and then turning it over like plowing it, or are we trying to minimize soil disturbance in this process?
I don't like soil disturbance. I don't need to wake up any more weed seeds that are laying here underneath the ground. So we are literally just taking a push lawnmower and to basically chop and drop right in place. So everything that grows in an area decomposes in the same spot.
And then you're kind of like no-tilling in your next crop.
Exactly.
Okay. And then the leaves, you're going to spend just as much energy getting the leaves off your lawn to the curve as you would from the lawn to the garden.
That is so true. And we actually bought a riding lawnmower with a bagging attachment so that we can steal our neighbors' leaves. And they all think that we're just doing them a great favor. And really, I want the leaves for my own selfish purposes.
Right. And that's how you build good neighbor rapport.
That's right.
Well, Brie, we greatly appreciate the information, the education you shared with. How can people find out more about you and get your books, and where at?
You can find me on my website, briegrows.com, BRIEGROWS. And I'm also Brie the Plant Lady on YouTube and Instagram. And we do try to post videos pretty regularly to show how fun gardening can be in doing small things on a regular basis, because it's the world's greatest hobby. There's very few things you can do in this world that make the world a better place, and gardening is really at the top of that list.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you for your time and your information.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to catch up.
Absolutely.